Hello, Professor Alamdari. Here
Hey
we
Jeff, how are you?
I'm well. We're back in class. Session is
Yes, we are.
We're back in session.
No,
Sorry for starting on a bad note.
that's a good note.
It's a long way to go till the end of the session.
Ooh, child. But we're here. It's all good.
We're here. Yes, we are here. We're here to celebrate a release, Soraya,
Yeah,
from a band that we've talked to previously. Last time we had the entire band on.
we did.
But we're here to celebrate this release right here.
Ooh, look at that beauty.
I know, Nevermore, the definitive anthology by Telltale Hearts,
Yes,
a double album by the same label that put out the Things reissues that we've talked about on our podcast before.
yes.
Teen Sounds out of Italy, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
Massimo Pozzo is the person at the helm, and he's a huge lover of garage bands and this fun psychedelic take. So um I we have a lot to be thankful for that. Teen Sounds, Misty Lane Recordings, that they have taken on these projects and really given the fans what they wanted.
yeah. And doesn't this look fantastic? I'm
I
curious.
just like it. And I mean, for people listening and not viewing the video, this double album, first of all, you open it and it's got great liner notes and some photos that maybe you haven't seen, but I think the real treat in this, Jeff, um, is that we get some really good recordings on this and like the quality of sound. And I mean, they've culled material from so many different places. It's really interesting to see it. But
Yeah.
yeah, double album. Do you have the colored vinyl double
No,
album?
no, I've got the black, just the black
Okay.
vinyl.
Yeah, there's a set that I saw that had colored vinyl, but yeah, worth it, and especially fans of Telltale Hearts or just fans of this genre. I mean, Jeff, we don't have to say you anymore, but fans of this genre, this is really going to be a treat. And Jeff, okay, we're like, gabbing on and spreading a lot of love. Jeff, tell our listeners who is with us today.
Yes, Ronnie Barnett's going to be joining us and to help us. And we're going to have this guy. I'm pointing at one of the guys in the band, Mr. Mike Stax,
Yes,
who
the
is
great Mike Stax.
yes, so legend in San Diego, a legend in Southern California. So Mike is the founder and editor of Ugly Things Fanzine, which has been going for decades. It's amazing. It's got huge fans, a lot of readers of that fanzine. Was a member of Evil Eyes, is
Right.
currently fronting the Loons as the frontman for that band, and obviously a former member of Telltale Hearts. And I'm sure we're missing other projects, but looking forward to Ronnie joining us and us talking to Mike about this release, about Telltale Hearts. I'm hopefully I can jog his memory about some shows that I attended too. So we're looking forward to the conversation. And since we added a person on our side with Ronnie, rather than bring the whole band back, we figured we'll bring Mike on and have Mike tell his version um, of his Telltale Heart story. So I'm looking forward to this one, Soraya.
This is going to be a lot of fun. So I say, let's just jump into it.
Let's do it.
Let's go.
Hi, this is Soraya.
And this is Jeff,
Our podcast is called Paisley Stage Raspberry and Rhyme.
a podcast where the two of us play music that we like and share anecdotes and background about the tunes.
We hope you'll join our conversation. And without further ado, a grooviar.
Let's get groovy.
So first of all, for our listeners today, we have a real treat. Joining us is our guest host, Ronnie Barnett. But also joining us, Jeff, is the one, the only, the amazing Mike Stax.
Legendary.
Yay.
Yeah.
Yes, and Jeff, show this beautiful release.
Mike won't be able to see it, but I'm holding up a copy
We
of
can see it,
Nevermore.
and the fans can see it. The
Yeah,
Telltale Hearts, Nevermore, the definitive anthology. Look at this
indeed.
beauty.
Yes.
Double LP.
Double LP. So thanks for joining us, Mike, to celebrate the release of this record. I'm loving having this. Thanks for
Thank you
joining
for
us.
having me on.
So
Good,
Soraya, I don't
good
know.
thing you didn't describe everything Mike does. We'd be here all night,
Oh,
right?
I know. We did a little bit of that.
Author, publisher, musician,
We did it in
singer.
the pre-show.
Oh, you did. Oh, okay.
Podcaster, Evil Eye,
Podcaster.
the front man of the Loons. Yeah,
Yep.
a legend in San Diego, a legend in Southern
Yep.
California. So Soraya,
Legend
episode.
in my own lunchtime.
So here we are on episode 216, Soraya.
Yep.
On episode 81, we played some music from Telltale Hearts. On episode 93, we had the entire band come on, but we've joined Ronnie to the mix, so we want to make sure that we outnumber our guests. So we don't want to have the whole band. But Mike,
I'm feeling bullied already.
in 1984, the band released on Vox High Tide, Big Noses, and Pizza Faces on CD, and we called that an anthology at the time. The
That,
1983,
not 1984, though. What was that? 2004?
94,
Oh,
94.
94. Yeah.
94.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. The CD age. Yes.
And I must have ordered it from you because in my CD, I have a letter that you wrote to me saying, "Here's the CD. I hope you enjoy it." That you wrote on the back of a flyer for the gigs that you guys were promoting that show on. Well, here we are 30 years later. I was telling Soraya when High Tide came out, I thought, man, the band has been broken up for a long time. It was 8 years.
Yeah. Well, it was. It did feel
Yeah.
like an age,
And here we are 30 years from that. Can you tell us why the definitive anthology is out now and why is this one so much better than High Tide?
Well, for one thing, it's vinyl, but I guess it was just time. People had been bugging us, not many people, but a few people, including Massimo at Misty Lane and Teen Sound Records, about doing an anthology. And I had got all the master tapes from Bomp in the meantime, sitting in my house. So it seemed like, as we had the tapes, it seemed like a good time to revisit it and maybe see if we could improve on it. Especially the first album, because that's something that I'd been apologizing for 40 years. It was the mix on that first album. It was not the mix that we okayed for release, and it was sort of a bone of contention ever since, really. So we wanted to go back and find the original mixes that Bill Calhoun and I had done back in 1984.
Okay, so I was curious about that. The 1984 release. I'm holding up the Telltale Hearts debut album cover. I love this album. Released on Vox 1984. So how did it come about from the time that you guys had your mix to discovering that Vox had come up with a less less enjoyable mix, let's say? What happened? How did that happen?
Yeah, I'm not really quite sure how it happened. I mean, you got to remember we were just, the band was aged between 19 and 22, and for most of the band, it was the first time in a recording studio, certainly a proper recording studio. So we were very inexperienced. Okay, so we went into the studio, Silvery Moon Studio in LA, right around the corner from Tail the Pup Hot Dogs, and we went in there with certain expectations. We wanted to have room mics. We wanted to have not too many microphones on the drums. We wanted to mic up the amplifiers. We didn't want things going directly into the board. And the engineer insisted that we do a direct feed for the Vox organ, and we insisted that he record it from the amplifier. And they were sort of saying, well, we can blend the two signals and all that kind of stuff. So we compromised and said, okay, as long as you also record it through the amplifier, and they did that. And it was various things like that, just wanting it to sound as good as possible based on our very limited knowledge. So when it came time to mix, I mean, the whole thing was recorded in 2 days, you know, 2 6-hour sessions or something like that. Then when it came down to mix, me and Bill Calhoun, the organ player, drove up to LA to do the mix with the
Okay.
engineer Gary Stern, and we mixed the record in the way we wanted it to sound,
Okay.
and then that was submitted to Greg Shaw at Bump, and he was said, "Cool." And then we actually went away on tour. We never really did too many tours, but we went away to the Midwest and played some shows in Missouri during the winter of '84, '85. And when we came back, Greg said, "Oh, your mix wasn't really what I wanted, so Lee Joseph and I have put together a new mix. Don't worry about it. You're going to like it." So we were a little bit concerned. And when we got the album, we hated the mix
Ah,
because they used that direct feed on the organ. So the organ just sounded like a thin, weedy little synthesizer. It didn't sound like a Vox organ. What was the point of having all this vintage equipment when you don't record the equipment? Um, just things like there were guitar parts that some of the songs had overdubs, or one even had three different guitar parts. Well, Lee and Greg didn't know that, so they just used whatever guitar part they found. They put a fader up, so there was guitar parts missing. The wrong guitar solos were used. There wasn't the right amount of reverb on the vocals. It was just all wrong. And it just to us sounded really thin and weedy and wimpy, and we were very disappointed in it, and felt a little bit burned by it, to be honest. And I think we blamed a lot of it on the studio and the technology, but it was really down to the fact that the mix was taken out of our hands. Um, so, but we discovered that amongst these tapes that we had were most of the original mixes that Bill and I had done back then. And I was concerned. I thought, well, as they were rejected, maybe they weren't very good. And I also had a cassette with all of them on, which I hadn't listened to in 40 years. So we went to the studio with the cassette and the various quarter-inch rough mixes, and we put them on, and we were kind of surprised, like, yeah, these are all way better mixes than the ones that Greg, input. So let's use these, and we just did a bit of EQing on them. But basically, these are the mixes that we did that the band wanted back in 1984 when the record was mixed. So it was great. It was a great feeling to know, first of all, that we hadn't fucked up the mix. We'd actually done a pretty good mix. It could have been better. It wasn't perfect, but it was 100 times better than the mix that came out on the record. And so we were finally able to put out the first album in the way that we had originally wanted it to be, and that was the most exciting thing about doing the anthology, was sort of righting that wrong and, rewriting history a little bit, and I think it was important to, when I listened to it again on those mixes, I thought, I started liking the songs again more, because I kind of, when the bad mix came out, I was done with all of those songs then. They'd all been sort of tainted for me. And I think the same for the band. We stopped doing a lot of those songs. So, yeah, that's one of the reasons we wanted to do it. And then there was various other things. There's a couple of things that hadn't been released before. And, we had the master tapes for everything else. So it all kind of fitted nicely onto 2 discs. So let's do a double album. And that's what ended up happening.
yeah. So for our listeners and for myself, with Nevermore, this is the first time that we as fans get to hear this original mix, and it sounds fantastic. There's instrumentation, Mike, in these songs, and I've listened to the debut album probably 200 times easily. And there's instruments that I'm hearing now that I've never heard before, and a little bit of banter at the beginning of each of the songs. So I feel like I'm in the studio with you guys. So I like that you
Yeah,
included.
we discovered some. When we put up those tapes, there was a few little bits of laughter and stuff. So we left a couple of those on because it was a nice little slice of time and place. And yeah, you are hearing instruments that were completely forgotten when they remixed it. So yeah, especially guitar parts. and just the organ sounding like a organ, like a Vox Jaguar organ through a Fender amp or whatever it was.
Now, this is not the first time I've heard of Greg Shaw maybe making executive decisions without telling the band. Um, I know the Things Colored Heaven record, also recently reissued by Misty Lane. They didn't know what the cover was going to be or anything. They opened the box, there was the cover, and it's just, as the band exclaimed when they saw it, they're like, this should be called Colored Pencil. Yeah. They also wanted to re-record it too, and Greg was just, we'll put these out. There were demos, that record. So, he ran the label, I guess, and he's obviously a legend, and we all love Greg Shaw. I didn't know him, but.
Yeah, I mean, I love Greg. He was like a mentor, and he did so much for the scene. But at the time working with him, it was always a little bit of a battle because he was operating on a shoestring and he was really cheap with everything.
Yeah.
So often demos would come out. I think we sent him a demo of a song, and it ended up on the garage sale cassette. It was just a demo, and with the album, he'd booked 2 weeks at Silvery Moon, and in that time he recorded the Gravedigger 5 album, our album, and the Miracle Workers album, and there may have even been one more. And we each kind of got 2 days, and that was for everything, backing tracks, vocals, overdubs, everything.
Wow.
And so everything was always like, oh no, that's fine, that's the take. And to be honest, Greg really didn't. He was the producer, but he wasn't really there for the whole time. And a lot of times he was just lying on the couch, reading a newspaper.
Yeah, and you're stuck with the engineer from Silver. I haven't heard of Silvery Moon. Was that a real bustling studio, or did they record like commercials and stuff?
I don't know that much about it. I mean, it was a typical sort of mid-'80s 24-track studio.
Okay.
A pretty good one, I imagine. Not top of the line, but for us, we would have rather used, a 4-track or 8-track studio. And in fact, after that experience, all of our other records were recorded with Mark Neal, and that was on a 3-track. And sonically, they sound way better.
Yeah, I was going to mention, Mike, that also included on Nevermore, the definitive anthology, is your EP, The Now Sounds of the Telltale Hearts, a record that I really, really like. This record. I always felt like it sounds authentic, as if it was recorded in the 60s. And I mean that in a good way. Like it has that feeling that totally matches the vibe of the band and the songs that you were doing. So that was also down in San Diego. Is that where you recorded it? I'm not familiar with that studio.
Yeah, that was. I mean, thank you for saying that, and that's exactly what we wanted to do. We wanted the whole concept of the band, or not really the concept. The whole purpose of the band was that it was to sound like an authentic band from the '60s, because we completely rejected anything that was new. It was, like being in a cult. And we found a fellow cult type atmosphere with Mark Neal and the Unknowns guys, who had this studio out in Dulzura, which is way out in the southeast county of San Diego, way out in this little rural area where he had all vintage equipment, a 3-track machine, and an echo chamber and plate reverb, and all tape, everything was authentic, right down to like the ashtrays. It was exactly what we wanted, because there was nothing in there that could interfere with our sound, except for Mark, the producer himself, and we trusted him because he was very knowledgeable. He still is. Amazing producer, great ears, and he helped us get what we wanted to do. I think the only dispute we had with him was that he wouldn't let us drink in the studio. We had to go outside to have beer between takes, because we were the kind of band that couldn't play without alcohol, which is maybe, I don't know if that added to the authenticity. It probably didn't help with the longevity of the band.
I'm glad to hear you mention the Unknowns. That's a band that no one talks about, and I love the Unknowns. They should be. It's a pun, but they should be more well known, right? Like,
yeah,
yeah,
oh, yeah, absolutely. They were an amazing band. That's one of the first bands I saw when I moved to San Diego, and they had their own sound, you know, and
Yeah.
those Mosrite guitars, and then, you know, Bruce was just such an amazing frontman. There was no one like him, you know. He was sort of like this, you know, Boris Karloff meets Brian Ferry or something. It was great.
Yeah. Yeah. There's great unknowns footage, folks, on New Wave Theater. One of the few surviving things of New Wave Theater you can find. Unknowns. So great. Yeah.
Mike, you might disagree with me, but being a member of the band, but I always felt like the five of you were perfect for this band. With David on drums, with you on bass, Eric on guitar, with Ray singing, and yeah, Bill on harp and organ. I just felt like you all in your individual instruments or whatever you guys were bringing to the band, you all just fit in perfectly. Was fortunate enough to see you guys live a few times. I think one was at maybe a frat party or something in the back of some house in San Diego State area. I don't know, but it was
Yeah,
fantastic.
yeah.
You had the a whole crowd just like pumped. It was amazing. The energy was crazy. And then of course when you guys opened for Jesus and Mary Chain, um, you guys blew them out of the water. I don't think they even wanted to be there, but that's a whole nother story. And then when you guys reunited, but um, did you feel like as a band member that you guys really gelled together, or did the
Yeah, absolutely. It was really, we had something really special. I know. Um, and for everybody, it was, if not the first band, it was sort of the first real, you know, I'd been in the Crawdaddies, but uh, you know, this was the first real band where I felt like I had a say, and it was the same with everybody. It was very, you know, the chemistry was just right.
okay?
Yeah, Jeff, since you brought up gigs, Mike, I don't even know if you know this. When I first was becoming friends with Kim, I saw the Telltale Hearts and the Pandoras and the Cramps in LA in '86.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That
So
was the California Theater.
that was, yeah, that sounds right. I didn't know the area at that point, but
Yeah,
that sounds
yeah,
right.
right. Yeah, I remember that show was actually, yeah, it was towards the end of the band, not the original lineup. We had a different guitar player by then,
Okay.
and we were kind of fading towards the conclusion at that point.
Well, it was a great gig. I didn't,
But
I'd
yeah, I
heard
think
of
we
you.
did.
Yeah.
We had a good chemistry. It was well, thanks. Yeah, I mean, playing with the Pandoras and the Cramps, you know, we had to play well. You know, it was the second time we played with the Cramps. We played with them earlier, and that was one of the best shows because the Cramps were backstage with, they were saying so much great stuff about us. You know, they were saying, "You guys are just like the Shadows of Night," you know, and you know all the things you wanted to hear.
Yeah.
And you know, Lux even started talking about us on stage during his rap in the middle of She Said. You know, it was really something. I think that's even on a Cramps bootleg. So that was one of my
Wow.
favorite shows that we ever played. Was that first show with the Cramps, which was in '85, and the Red Hot Chili Peppers were also on the bill opening. You know, we were before that. They were in the middle, but I'd never heard of them before.
So, Mike, I wanted to bring up the fact that you guys definitely were not shy about your influences. And I heard about bands through Telltale Hearts that I never heard about from anybody else. And you guys would introduce some bands by way of covers that you included, especially on the debut album. Was there um, a concerted effort to share your influences?
We were like on a mission to enlighten people about this music that we thought was the greatest music ever recorded. You know, this music from the mid and late '60s, and especially this obscure, you know, Dutch music, and also everything by the Pretty Things. That was all part of, you know, what we wanted to do. And you know, in reflection, it was a little bit like when the Stones started off, and they just wanted to tell everybody, look, Muddy Waters, Howlin' Wolf, all those chess blues guys, Jimmy, and plus Jimmy Reed and Bo Diddley, everything. It was a bit like that with us, but for us, we were doing it with these, you know, '60s garage and beat groups and R&B bands, and you know, and the other element, of course, was that, you know, none of us had any experience writing songs at the time that we formed the band. None of us had written any songs at all at that point. So the songs on that first album that we did write were the first songs we ever wrote. You know,
Wow.
and um, hence, they're not that great. I mean, I think Ray came up with a really, probably the best Telltale Heart song, which was Crawling Back. To me, I think that's the nearest we got to having sort of a classic song of that era. But most of our songs were a little bit derivative or just kind of clunky and strange. And in some ways, now I listen to them and that's kind of what I like about some of them. The fact that what the heck were we thinking with that part and jamming it against that part, but that kind of is what made it original. We weren't so blatantly derivative as some of the other bands on the scene where you could, we used to stand watching certain bands and we would say, oh yeah, that's believes too many people, and then they just attached it to the Kinks. I need you during that part,
Yeah.
Ours were a little more obscure, and we maybe flip them around a bit more.
Yeah, I could definitely hear like influence, but I Crawling Back to Me is a great song, I will admit, but I You're a Dirty Liar is my favorite, all-time favorite song by the band. And that's a co-write with you and Bill.
Yeah, that was literally the first song that we ever wrote.
Wow. Yeah.
And it was basically a rip off. The main organ riff anyway was a rip off of "Dirty Old Man at the Age of 16" by them.
Oh.
And but we added another part, but the whole middle section with that organ part, we lifted that wholesale. But we did write new lyrics to it, and we did add that first riff. And yeah, I like that song too.
Yeah.
But it was, Bill and I wrote that in half an hour, and it was the first thing that either of us had ever written.
But the two of you wrote, I think, at least 3 other songs together on that first album. So you guys had, you guys were collaborating, the two of you.
Yeah, well, Bill and I were roommates, so we would get sit down and let's write a song, and things would come out, and they were a lot of moody songs like Forever Alone, But Bill used, these days I mostly write lyrics, but back then Bill did a lot of the lyrics, and I would do more of the music, and a lot of Bill's lyrics were about walking down lonely avenues and jumping off bridges and things.
Would you write them on bass, Mike?
Yeah, a lot of things that come in with a bass line, and then Bill would come up with an organ part, and
okay,
yeah, because I still can't play guitar, so yeah, we would just come up with things with real simple ways like that. But then you bring in, I said we wrote them, but we would bring them to the band, and they would all add their parts, and that was true with Ray's songs too, and Eric's songs, and all the band contributed ultimately.
When High Tide came out, and you guys got together as a band and did a couple shows to promote the record, I was telling Soraya that in the liner notes, if you flip the gatefold, it ends and says, so it's talking about a little bit about your history. That's written by Hugh Diller, right?
Yeah.
Freak Beat magazine?
He writes for Shindig.
Shindig
okay.
Magazine, yeah. So it ends and it says, and the rest, my friends, is silence until now, because we have this. And I'm sure when he says until now, he's referring to this. But me being ever the optimist, is there any chance that the band is going to do any shows to promote this record?
No, there's no chance. Zero chance of that happening. Yeah, it was fun doing those reunion shows before, which I guess were 30 years ago. But in a way, I'm kind of the school of thought that whenever you do that, you kind of take away from what the original band was, especially with a band like ours, where it was very, we were very limited musicians, and we just kind of hit upon something almost by accident with the chemistry of the guys. And then you break up and everybody flies off in a different direction. So when you get back together, that chemistry, we still have chemistry as friends, but, it's not the same. And we don't feel this, we're not those same 19 to 23-year-old people anymore. And, yeah, and the other thing is, Ray's kept singing and Eric's kept his chops up on guitar, but I haven't played bass in 30 years. David doesn't play drums anymore, really. I don't even know if he has a drum kit. And Bill doesn't play any music at all. In fact, he hadn't played before the last reunion, and I was having to shout chord changes out to him on stage, which
I
kind of took
remember
away
that.
from the enjoyment to some extent.
I
Sorry,
remember
Bill.
that.
He
Yeah.
hadn't done all his homework. So yeah, I think it takes away a little bit. We were those young. I want people to think of us as those young, skinny guys with more hair, um, rather than a bunch of older gentlemen. And for me, playing music, what excites me about playing music is creating new music and new songs, and going back to then and trying to create how I felt when I was 21 doesn't feel authentic to me, and it's not really that fun. I mean, I'm busy with the Loons, and that's what my purpose is in music is to be the singer in the Loons and write songs with the Loons. So yeah, I don't want to do it, and I think the other guys are pretty much in agreement with that. As I say, that they haven't kept their hand in, and I'd like us to be remembered, like I said, as like young band. I really admired, Paul Weller's attitude, about the jam. He just like he didn't want to go backwards. He wanted to keep moving forwards. I mean, you know, of course, a lot of people would care if the jam got back together, but I mean, for the Telltale, if it was going to be thousands of people who were going to see us play at the Hollywood Bowl, I might feel differently. But for
Right.
us to get back up to the level we were at musically, to play to 200 people at the Casbah, doesn't
Yeah.
seem worth it.
No, that's totally respectable.
Yeah, you hear that, promoters? Get a good offer to the Telltale Hearts. They'll reunite. It's got to be right. Yeah.
Gotta be right.
The Hollywood Bowl.
If all 1,000 of our fans worldwide would come, we could, fill the first few rows of the Hollywood Bowl.
Nah. One of those, a festival in Spain, Mike. Something like you could, if you guys did a Spanish tour, that would be great.
Yeah, but if I'm going to go to Spain, I want to go with the Loons.
I know, exactly. Yeah.
So speaking of that, the Loons have toured pretty extensively in Europe, right? You guys do quite a number of shows.
Yeah. Last summer we did our biggest tour of Europe. Which is, again, usually we go to Spain. That's kind of our place to go. We have a great promoter there, Constant Chow, not booking, and he always books us great tours. So, but last summer we also extended that to go to France and Germany, and we spent pretty much a month, and it was just fantastic. It was just great. So, you know, Ronnie knows how it is. You go to Europe, and everything's 10 times bigger than it is here. They they love rock and roll music there, and they're not afraid to be uncool enough to show it. They're not standing there with their arms crossed,
Yeah.
examining every bar of every song. They just going crazy, and you can just do your thing. That's what I love.
Yeah. They're very happy to see you over there. You know what I mean? Like they love
Yeah.
rock and roll. It is amazing.
Yeah, it is. It's just a fantastic feeling to do that every night, and of course every night's different because you'll play like a festival with 3,000 people in a town square one night, and the next night you're in a club playing to 40 people, and and then the next year in the backyard of a back garden of a restaurant, in the afternoon on your way to your next festival, and you just keep rolling, and it's all different experiences, and that's what it's all about. It's all about the experiences.
That's true. That town down south of Spain where the sun doesn't even go down, and you go on at like 2 a.m. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Oh, I was stressed out about that the whole tour, you guys. I saw that on my itinerary, and I was like, I woke up from my nap at midnight. Like,
Yeah.
It turned out great. I was like, no one's gonna be. Yeah, turned out great. But yeah, thank God for him in Spain, and yeah, Italy, Mike. I'm surprised. Next time.
Yeah. We've only done Italy once, and we only did a few shows in the north. We really want to do. I'd love to do a more extensive tour of Italy, but in Italy, it seems like all the promoters are asking about Telltale Hearts instead.
Oh, right.
I mean, that's one place where we probably could do okay, but yeah, I'm not going to throw down. I'm not going to do it.
So, Mike, was it an adjustment going from being the bassist in a band and then you did Evil Eyes and then being the front person for the Loons? Was that an adjustment for you?
Yeah, it was a huge adjustment. And it was partly just because, well, mainly because I just wanted to have a bigger role, and I wanted to sing my own lyrics. I was writing lyrics or co-writing lyrics, but I wanted to sing my own lyrics. I wanted to express myself, and I was, sick of being the bass player. I wasn't getting any better on the bass or anything like that, really. Um, you know, I'm not a great musician, so I wanted to challenge myself by being a singer. And it took a while. I mean, I listened back to some of the early Loons records, and the vocals, I can hardly listen to them, but I feel like I got confident over time, we've been doing it for 30 years now, so I guess it turned out okay in the end. But yeah, it was a challenge, but that's what I need. I needed a challenge. I couldn't be just playing bass on Pretty Things covers for 40 years.
And I will say that I'm pretty fond of your bass player. I'm sure you are as well, of the Loons.
Well,
She's got
Yeah,
that's a real bass player, you know.
she's
Yeah, she's amazing.
she's got great
yeah,
style too, your wife. So
Yeah, yeah, it's all
absolutely.
part of the stage presence, and also we have I feel like we have a really nice vocal blend with the harmonies and things like that.
yeah, you guys are great. If anybody hasn't seen the Loons, go check them out for sure. Lots of energy, lots of fun. Great
Yeah.
So
show.
thanks.
So I wanted to take it back a little bit to before we let you go to Nevermore. And I just wanted to comment, Mike, that I think the presentation is absolutely gorgeous. I don't know if you would agree, but I think they did a really good job of how it looks in this alternate versus the Now Sounds EP. Obviously from the same shoot, but is the band, are you happy with how the record turned out visually?
Yeah, we had a big say in it.
Oh,
We were very picky about how we wanted it to look and which photos we wanted them to use, and that was the one that we picked. Tony Sanchez, Tony the Tiger, he took those photos back in 1985, and I still had the original prints, and so we went through and picked out the best ones, and there's various live shots that are in there as well. And yeah, I think we had a good image. I mean, that was important to us, that the band looked good. And nobody was wearing stupid shoes. Nobody was wearing Nikes.
Yeah,
Nobody was wearing shorts.
yeah,
It was, you had to look like 1966
yeah.
or you would be shown out of the practice room, let alone the photo section.
and I will say that a lot of your fans kind of met that criteria too. At least some of the shows that I went to. There's a lot of the fans there were dressed for the occasion, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, in the beginning, when we first started in San Diego, there wasn't too many. There was a few people. There was a little mod scene, but it was a bit more mod than garage. And then we also started attracting a lot of the punks, especially the women, because punk was, this was 83, 84. Punk was going into its, hardcore was raging,
Mm.
and all those shows were like mosh pits and muscles and jocks, and the women kind of fled that scene. Punk rock originally, it was art people and freaks and outsiders,
Yeah.
and all those people kind of moved over to the garage scene, I think, during that period because, you know, arty people don't want to get their nose blooded in the pit by some football player. So yeah, we started getting punks and stuff, and they started adopting more of that style, and growing their hair, and because they were, we could make music that they could dance to, and the girls like to dance, and of course, once there's dancing girls, then more guys start coming to the shows too.
Yeah.
If not for the music, but for the girls. So
Yeah.
yeah, it worked out, and yeah, it was a good scene, and that, of course, there were bands in LA and other bands in San Diego too, but very big of five and the Warlocks down here.
Yeah. Yeah, and there weren't very many people in your audiences that were just standing around watching. People were moving. You got people moving, whether they wanted to or not, people were moving. At the shows that I went to, you really got us all going, and I appreciate
Thanks.
that. That was always a fun show when Telltale Hearts were playing. So,
Yeah, I mean, we had a blast. I mean, I have great memories of the live shows, especially. Um, they were just so fun. Yeah, it was a good period. And we were discovering a lot of music and finally being able to write our own music and feel like we had our own sound. But unfortunately, with a band like that, it has a sort of an expiration date pretty quick. Bands generally, young bands like that, where it's a group of friends just starting out to play, it's usually 4 or 5 years max. And I think we had about 3.5 years, and then the bickering started, and which direction will we be going in, and everybody had different ideas, so it fell apart, which was sad at the time, but it wasn't a band that was going to evolve together.
Yeah, and we've got
like the Miracle Workers. They turned a little hard rock, right?
Yeah, a lot of the bands were able to do that. They were able to suddenly leap to the early '70s, and that's not where we were at, and it just didn't work. So we all went off and did different things.
But we have this document now. That's amazing. It's incredible. Nevermore definitive anthology. So glad that Teen Sounds put it out. And Mike, we appreciate you coming on to talk about it. I think this record's worth celebrating. Only on vinyl, right? So
oh yeah, I think it's I think it's going to be on the streaming platforms and what have you. I don't really know much about that side of it, but I don't think there's any CDs in the works.
Yeah. Definitely worth checking out. Both albums are worth listening to. If you can't find the originals, these are better, and got a new mix that sounds fresh.
Yeah. I mean, it's the place to go to definitely to hear the first album, but basically it's everything. So that's all you need. You can toss out all your own records.
I won't be
you
doing
hear that, Jeff? Yeah. You hear that, Jeff?
No. Make some shelf space. I can see it's looking a little tight on some of those.
Yeah.
No.
There's also a new Ugly Things that just came out. Oh.
Yes.
Too.
Oh yes.
So
yes.
I bought this at a newsstand. I found a newsstand in Davis, Mike, that carries it. So.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah. An actual newsstand. So.
Plastic Land. There's still newsstands.
Yeah, me too. I told the guy that. I'm like, so it smelled like a new. Just that smell. There's probably a Frank Zappa on the toilet poster somewhere in there. You know what I mean? It was like old school.
Yeah. Great. Yeah.
Awesome.
But part 3 of the Plastic Land tale, which I really appreciate, Mike.
Yeah, I love Plastic Land back then, and now all of a sudden, they're eligible to be in Ugly Things. Back then they couldn't because they were new. But Glenn and I used to talk all the time. Glenn Reese and the band, and he's just great. He's never changed. So we're back to talking on the phone again, and telling the Plastic Land story is important. I think they were one of the best, if not the best, band to come out of that whole period, especially in the '60s. Nobody was doing it like that. They actually wrote great songs, unlike us, that, they were just, amazing. I mean, genius.
Yeah, no, and a lot of my friends that ignore them at the time, my friend Larry, who does In the Red Records, he's like, would I like Plastic Land? I'm like, I think you would. And he got Plastic Land. He loves them. Yeah, so.
Oh, yeah, what's not to like? I mean, fantastic.
Yeah. And like you say, the real thing. I'd be scared to interview them just because they're scary to me. I don't know, because they're.
Well, Glenn, he's almost like a Captain Beefheart kind of genius guy, where he speaks not in riddles, but he looks at everything in the world in a slightly askew way, which is very cool and very real, and he's the real thing. He's a real psychedelic nut. I love the guy.
Yeah, and also, Mike, before we go, I got to know, is Craig Smith in the room with you?
Oh yeah, he is actually.
Wow.
He's on the shelves behind us.
Oh my God. Yeah, everyone read the book Mike wrote about Craig Smith. It's the best, my favorite rock book, favorite rock tale. I mean, yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Haunted by that story, I always will be. And thank you for putting that together, Mike. What a work that is. So,
thanks. Yeah, that was definitely a journey. Definitely changed me. Changed the way I look at the world, for sure.
Yeah. So maybe one day we'll get him out of that room and get him, right?
Yeah. We need to do that. We got to set him free.
Yeah. Let me know. I want to be there if it happens.
I will. Thanks.
All right, so people, check out the Loons, check out Ugly Things, the Ugly Things podcast. So,
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. New episode just went out yesterday. Sonny Vincent,
Ah,
which is yeah, he's a great storyteller. It's really worth listening to. And I have another one coming up very soon. A Joe Meek episode. I interviewed one of the
wow.
tornadoes, and man, that episode is an edge of your seat.
ooh.
There's revelations in there that have never been heard before. Just incredible and scary and very very cool.
When
Wow.
can we expect that episode to be available?
Um,
About a month?
maybe next week.
Okay.
Huh.
Okay.
Depends how fast my editor works. James Archer,
Yeah.
he might be busy with his regular job. Like all of us, we have to pay the bills.
Yep.
Exactly, exactly.
Yep.
All right, Mike. Well, we appreciate you taking
You.
time out of your busy schedule to talk with us on it. And congratulations on the record. It's great. You should be proud of it. The band should be
Yep.
proud of it.
Thank you. I'm happy, very happy about it.
Okay, Mike. Thanks. I
All right.
appreciate it. We'll see you at a show sometime.
Yeah, I hope so.
All
All
right.
right.
Take
Good
All
care.
night,
right.
everybody.
Bye,
Take
Mike.
care.
Bye.
Yep.
Good night.
I want to share this quote from the liner notes
Yeah.
because so much of what Mike just said, uh, this person sums up. So this is from the liner notes of the definitive anthology, uh, from Lenny Helsing, and this is a quote. All of this is what makes them special and would culminate in a cauldron of delights with, at the forefront, a clutch of unbeatable songs played out in the group's own individual and collective style, with an ever present and quite remarkable compository approach. Melody, rhythm, harmony, rave ups, screams, dynamics galore, and over and above just the sheer sartorial class of this gang. Those who witnessed their live gigs told of a powerful, authentic example of what raw rock and roll should be.
Raw rock and roll is definitely a good way to describe.
Yeah. And so much of what he described is, it was the image, but also just the raw energy behind the band.
Yeah.
And I think it definitely comes across in this anthology.
Yeah.
Sure.
Absolutely. They were the real thing. And I always am breaking down timelines. So when they were around, the bands that they were emulating it had barely been 20 years since then,
Right.
right? Now it's 40 years since then, right? Like,
That's
wow.
nuts.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. The
Yeah.
time thing is weird because I was
Yeah.
listening to this on the way home from work today, the the last anthology, the 94 anthology, and like I said, I was thinking it seemed like so long before they had broken up when this came out, and I'm like started calculating, I'm like 8 years? Like
Yeah.
how was that only 8 years? It just seems like nothing. And
That's because as we get older, the time
yeah,
gets,
The
it's weird.
continuum
it's
Yeah.
just expands
distorted.
in different ways. It's very
It's
elastic.
all off. Yes.
But see, like he reiterated a few times, the band was a band of this moment.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they really squeezed a lot of things into that. But then they also started realizing, or, the band kind of evolved and said, okay, this is pretty much it.
Yeah. Because like he said, at that point, what are we going to do? Evolve into something else that we don't really agree on,
Yeah.
and that's what happened with, like I said, the Miracle Workers and like punk bands. The punk bands
Mhm.
all went metal in the late 80s, right?
Channel
Like,
3.
Yeah.
there's tons of them. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, if they lasted that long, they went metal, you know. So yeah, they had their time and place. And Mike looks back fondly. I love that.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah. All good things to
I
say
think all
about
of
the
them
band.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They or like the ones that I see more frequently online are Mike Stax and Ray Brandis, and they're still active, but I think they all look back at that time with, yeah, this is a project I'm very proud of,
Yeah.
and I'm also proud of the other things I've done too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally loved his response to my question about if they were going to play to support this. I didn't expect that answer, but I really, really liked the way that he went
Yeah.
about answering, and it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
That was a time and space that they're no longer in, right? And not saying anything negative at all about
Right.
Telltale Hearts, but they're just not in that space anymore. And I was cracking up when he was talking about even the reunion shows that they did in '94. And it was a lot of fun. They did some great shows, but you could tell that even though it was only 8 years, that
Yeah.
it had been 8 years, 8 years of not playing and not rehearsing together, but still a great show nonetheless. And I do recall Mike yelling over chords, "That's a C." Or yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I made a note of what he said that, sometimes when there are these reunion shows, the chemistry of what was the original, excuse me, lineup just isn't the same. And I think as a fan, like but I want you to reunite. I want to hear you. And he kind of had me stop and think, well, there's another side to this equation. I hadn't really given it that much thought.
Yeah,
Me
well,
neither.
it works both ways, right? But you got to have the other guys. If the other guys all ambush him and said, "We want to do it," he would probably do it, right? But he's not going to be the. You're not going to be the one guy trying to get everybody together. That's, you know what I mean.
Right.
You all have to want to do it and all be enthusiastic about doing it. And
Exactly.
yeah, and if they don't, yeah, if they're not up, don't feel like it, then yeah, don't do it.
And that's why I think it's even more telling that they added that extra adjective, definitive, the definitive anthology. Like,
Yeah,
don't be looking for any more tapes. Don't be looking for anything else.
yeah,
This is it. This is what you want. These are the mixes we support. This is how we want you to listen to the Telltale Hearts and let it be. The more he kept talking about it, the more I kept thinking, okay, so this definitive is a very telling choice of word.
yeah.
So I just thought it was interesting to me.
And that said, I got to order that thing tonight because it's going to disappear.
You better.
Yeah.
Or
So-
cost a fortune to get it from the label in Italy. Yeah.
I
Right.
mean,
Yeah.
and Jeff, I'm so glad that you pointed out just the layout and how this was put together. I mean, Massimo Del Pozo, it's obvious that he has a lot of love for these bands, that, he culls these things with a lot of care, and they're just really well put together, but it's the photos. And I liked knowing that the band was very specific about what they wanted and how they wanted it, and that they had that say.
Yep.
And so, we get this really complete picture of what the band is, was, and will be through the photos, the liner notes, the mixes they chose. That's it, folks.
And they saved that stuff. They saved the photos. He had the tapes. You know.
Yeah. I mean,
Jeff throws away all his stuff. I keep telling
of
him,
course.
you got to
He
save
lights
that
it with a
stuff.
fireball.
Yeah,
No.
yeah.
Boom.
Yeah. So,
But
Yeah.
well, it begs the question then, Ronnie, like for you and Roy.
yeah.
I mean, are there things that fans just haven't seen from the Muffs that you all have or know where it is?
Not necessarily,
Not
no. Because I've reached out to the label that owns our fifth album now. And I was thinking about it, like, okay, if this actually happens, there's not a lot of stuff.
Right.
There's not a lot of stuff. And there's not a lot of stuff that didn't come out on our odds and sods compilation, but
Mhm.
whatever. If it exists just as a record, then it exists as a record. It's,
And,
It
and
needs
sometimes that's just
Yeah.
enough.
it's a $75 record, so just to have it out on vinyl for people. And look, there's plenty of people that would just buy it on vinyl, wouldn't even care about the CD with the bonus stuff,
There you go.
Yeah, which blows my mind. But
Well, look at what Mike did. We've only got a vinyl release and no thought of a CD release.
yeah. Well,
They want it to be a nice quality thing and for real fans to have it in their possession. People
Yeah.
will love it, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Just as much.
sometimes there's just not a lot of extra stuff. hanging around for just that particular record. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like
Yeah.
one record you might, one record you're not. And, it's not like you go in and record 2 records worth of stuff. Generally.
Generally.
Yeah. Yeah. So
All right. So if any of our US listeners want to get this, the way to get it is Ugly Things. You buy it directly from Mike. Yep. You can
yep.
go to his website. But if you're in Europe, you could go, I think you can get it at brick and mortar stores as well as Teen Sounds. For us in the US, it's costly. I think you pay more in shipping to get it from Italy here
Yeah. Yeah.
than the actual cost of the record
Yeah.
itself.
The label does have a Bandcamp, Misty Lane.
Yeah.
Yes.
But you're right, Jeff. Yeah, it's like
$40 to ship it or something.
yeah, the record is like 40. Yeah, it cost you. Yeah,
You're paying double, yeah.
it's
But Ugly Things, buy it directly from Mike. Although there's a limited quantity, so Ronnie, make sure you order yours before this goes live.
yes. Now I'm going to do it tonight, and just tell Mike don't send it out until Saturday because it's going to be hot here. In case it got here,
Yeah.
we are in California. Yeah.
Right,
So, yeah. So
all right, you guys.
Oh, mi
So-
gente.
Wait, before we say goodbye, Ronnie, you want to hint at what we might be doing next? Just as a teaser?
oh yeah. Well, a band I'm quite fond of from Southern California. Was their first EP on Texas Hotel? I think it was.
I think it was. Yes.
Yeah. They made 3 albums and an EP. They ended up on a major for their last album. Their stuff is on Spotify. The band name is 2 words. And
Ronnie's like, those are all the clues I'm giving you.
yeah, these are all clues that no one will be able to guess.
Well, it's
We
gonna
shouldn't
be
count
great.
our chickens anyway. Yeah.
It's gonna be great.
But we've got some stuff. We've got some things cooking, thanks to the one and only Ronnie Barnett, the man with the plan, the VIP connection.
More to come. Well, more to come. Yeah, it's because of you guys. Thanks for letting me piggyback here.
Of course. Of course. Anytime. This is your show, man.
Yeah, no.
All right,
No.
Jeff. Mi gente, a gruyere.
Groove on, Paisley people.
Have mercy. What are you guys texting each other, Soraya?
No,
Sexy stuff.
Of course. Of course. No.
There we go.
I'm not happy until I can see Ronnie.
No. You gotta. I gotta pop up.
I see his legs every day walking by.
I know. I'm sorry. Tonight's in the can already.